This is a horror game podcast. It is meant for mature audiences. It may contain shocking revelations, violence, and sexual themes. Viewer discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I are playing the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Thom Raley. The scenario is The Lesser Isle. It was written by David Gassaway, who is also our keeper of arcane lore, and this is episode 1. So without any further delay, let's begin our journey into the darkness. David?
Thank you, Tom. It's May 1925. Our investigators are all the second party joining an archaeological expedition on the Lesser Isle, the smaller of the two major Balearic islands, Menorca, in the northern Mediterranean. A Professor Meissner began a dig there in 24, and so far it's promising. So he expanded the dig, and a professor that all of you are familiar with from Oxford or Cambridge, where you have been affiliated in one capacity or another, was assembling you as a team to go and join this expedition when radio contact with Professor Meissner suddenly ended 8 days ago. It's a pretty rural area and a pretty bare bones operation, so everything is assumed to be okay, but you've got extra equipment and have been hurried up a little bit because it's important that people figure out what's going on with that expedition. Right now, it's Thursday, the 7th of May. It's the night before you're to depart for Menorca, and you're meeting each other, most of you, for the first time at a dinner before your early morning departure. It's about 5 hours from the Spanish coast to Menorca on the steamship Lenora. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves to the assembled, we can get to know who's joining the crew.
I am Felipe Alvarado, Dr. Felipe Alvarado. I am the linguist, originally from Miskatonic University, where I worked. I'm here in England, increasing my knowledge of certain Near Eastern dialects. I speak quite a few languages. I'm a polyglot. I am 32. I am in good health, though I'm a bit plump, and I get along with people pretty well.
I am Roland Cartwright, the cartographer of the expedition, late 30s, brown hair, green eyes, kind of slender build. Just going off about how I'm very excited to go to the island to help map things out. Most of the jobs that I get are more suburban, urban areas, so this is a exciting time for me.
I am Spencer Blackwell. I am 28. I am the stereotypical Englishman. I'm about 5'10", a bit broader in the chest than most of the Tommies that I served with. Got a reputation for being a bit of a rough and ready gentleman. It's wearing sort of clothes fit for the Mediterranean. White, generally, linen at this point. Carrying with him a military duffel bag. One of the first things that will be very apparent is up and down both forearms are not only barbed wire scars, but also shrapnel wounds as well that seem to run up underneath his sleeves. And he's a jovial man, sometimes quiet, and seems to always have a lit cigarette. You're not quite sure where he gets them all.
Lillian Dupre, the engineer aboard this expedition, here to keep everything running smoothly. Plain and unconcerned with looks, unconcerned with people in general, not a charming individual at all. Prefers the company of the machine she works on to anything else.
I'm Elihu Outhwaite. I am from the University of Arizona. I am something of an outdoorsman myself, and I am the archaeologist of this operation.
And I'm Finley Fisher, whose shirt is not tucked in and is desperately trying to get the tripod set up in front of the damn table so he can take the picture of everyone, because he's damned if he's going to ruin his first documented trip to Menorca.
Brilliant. Very good. The meal is excellent. Even Ms. Dupre finds the company reasonably congenial. All of you have fine references, which helps. And the situation seems quite interesting. The Meissner is looking at some material that was not documented until the late 19th century. Menorca is a curious little island with a deep history. And so it's you're in an excellent mood. When you try to retire, you do have to get up around 5:15, 5:20 in the morning to get to the quay to board the Lenora. The Lenora is the kind of steamship that a university will pay for to take a group of academics to a smaller island. There are a few other passengers. There's a small crew. It's a loud, slow, stained, charming, functional vessel. The captain's, got an unlit cigar stub clamped in his mouth. And, seeing the sunrise over the Mediterranean is pretty magnificent. Again, after a few hours of travel, some of the hands are playing cards. It's not rigorous. It's, the Mediterranean is calm. You begin to see the island of Menorca in the distance. It's not a very large island, and it's not hugely varied topographically. So it's basically a long, low mound as it appears over the water. And where you're docking, well, you're not docking. You're going to a rural, out of the way area. There's not even a quay. So the captain weighs anchor, and then you start shuttling on a small motorboat to a little cove where there's enough beachhead where you can, put things. And there are several pallets of materials, because you're bringing a new generator, because that might be why the radio went out. You're bringing a new radio, because that might be why the radio went out. You're bringing extra food supplies and whatever of your own equipment and personal goods is important. So it's shuttling back and forth. It takes you first and your personal goods, and then it returns to the Lenora, loads some more material, comes out. I'd like all of you to roll luck for the first time, please. One good, one bad, one good, one good, one good.
Spencer will also be helping with the manual work as well. Something to keep his hands busy.
Very good. Okay, only one. So out of the 6 loads of materials, 5 came across before the tremor. Now you all need, if you would, I'd like you to roll dex.
Just straight dex?
Yep. Good,
Hard
bad.
pass.
Good. All right. So only one of you falls on his butt, which is not bad. There is a almost subsonic rumble and roar, and then first thing you hear is the clatter of rocks around the cove that you're standing in, and then the roll happens, and it's as though the earth is a blanket that got shaken once, and everything sways, and poor Mr. Cartwright falls on his butt, and you hear a grinding of metal out on the water. And of course, the water itself is responding to this. There is suddenly there's a lot more beach. And then shortly thereafter, you have to hustle for things on the shore because the water is rolling back in aggressively. But you did, you guys were fortunate. You guys were prepared. Almost all of the equipment that you planned to take with you has arrived, and you could pull it back away from the water.
Oh my God. Didn't know they had so many earthquakes here.
Mr. Cartwright, you need some help there?
Yeah, sorry. Wasn't expecting that. I mean, is this normal? Will there be more earthquakes?
I suppose there's volcanoes out here in the ocean. With the islands. Did you think that felt like an earthquake or a seaquake? Was it centered inside or outside? We don't have, perhaps, Mr. Cartwright, you could guess as a cartographer what.
I would suggest that both the engineer and the cartographer can roll their specialty, or they can roll a knowledge roll.
I hope there's not a tidal wave.
That's a hard success from me.
Same, hard success.
All right. Simply put, these are not volcanic islands, and the Mediterranean is not the ocean, nor is it known for volcanoes. So it's presumably not a common occurrence at all. And you'd be strong enough to knock you over. It's significant. Like that's, I don't know whether we'd Richter it, but, or how, we don't know how local it is. But yeah, strange. So the motorboat returns, and basically the first mate, who's got slightly better English or is more comfortable with the broad array of languages, calls out that the anchor got yanked out by the tremor, and so they hit rocks, and there's a gash in the hull, and they're taking on water, and so they are not going to, they were going to carry some of your material inland to the site and so on, but they can't deliver anything else, and they have to, the nearest port where they can get repairs is a good hour away, and they're going to be straining the pumps to get that far. So welcome to Menorca.
Yeah,
Gentlemen,
boy.
Have to take our own things then? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
like
Yes.
we're hiking, Doctor. I
Believe
I wonder
so.
if we could hire some locals, I don't know, to help cart our things.
I'm already moving stuff. Oh, Dr.
I believe
Alvarado,
we
it'll be
are
all
the
right. Let's
locals
go.
At this point, I'm happy to carry your bags if you need.
Thank you. Yes. Be careful though. Those have a couple cameras. Thanks. Thanks, Spencer.
Definitely. So he'll start just strapping bags to himself, carrying Finley's equipment and as well as Dr. Philippe's bags. As long as it's not a set of matched luggage or something unreasonable.
Well, mostly clothes.
Yeah, I'm carrying the equipment needed for this expedition, tools, kits,
Oh,
bags.
we're gonna have to make multiple trips, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can carry some of it, please.
Probably, you know that you've landed on the northern shore. you know that the dig is pretty much due south. There's a path. It's just not paved or anything. So you don't want to overbear. You don't want to try to carry everything at once because you don't know quite how far you're going to go or how strenuous it's going to be. So you can take maybe a half or a third of the items, and presumably when you get to the base camp, then the other people can help you, can return and help you with the rest of it.
Can we at least put them in a safe place so that if monster waves from the earthquake don't come in and flood them over?
I think we could move them up ashore a bit, certainly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's advisable that you move things away from a potential water line.
Yeah.
So that you can know you can come back for them.
This generator.
Yeah, all the heavy stuff is on pallets. Some of them still have oilcloth tarps on them from when they were stowed in the boat.
Is this generator something that a group of us would be able to move by hand?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Two reasonably strong people can move it with some effort. Four of you, it's easier than a casket, for example.
definitely. Cool. So I'd like to organize the moving of the equipment to above the threat of flood or high tide, as it were, and sort of redistribute our initial paths of gear that we're going to be taking inland.
Very good. And things like barnacles on exposed rock and grass on higher ground make it pretty clear where you can safely locate things. Yes?
Oh, nothing. Sorry.
So it's 10 o'clock or so on a pretty lovely morning. It's very bright. You're on the Mediterranean. You're not far from the equator. It's spring. The path is sometimes a bit narrow between rocks because it's a fairly arid and rocky area. This is not a lush tropical environment you're on. So, and the island is roughly shaped like a lima bean, so the convex on the north where you landed and concave on the south.
What is the size of the island?
It's about 40 miles east to west and about half that north to south.
Okay.
So it's a substantial piece. There was more than one, meaningful community, like they're small cities. But it's not it's Menorca, not Majorca.
Right. It's walkable. It would take you a while, but it's walkable.
Yeah, fundamentally. And it basically has a central ridge, right? So between the northern curve and the southern curve is the highest point, although of course there's variations.
You say it's fairly dry, but I'm imagining some grasses are coming up now in the spring and little flowers, and
there are grasses, there are shrubs. It's stuff that can, again, it's very temperate. So everything is evergreen, more or less. There are butterflies, there are songbirds, there are lizards.
Quite
it's just spare rather than lush. And again, there'll be it'll get greener and denser along waterways. And then, high ground will be more sparse. So you head south. You basically are single file, unless two of you are carrying a generator, maybe, and trading off with that.
I can help with the generator.
I'll help as well.
Okay.
So we trade off every so often.
Sing a bit of sea shanty as we go to make the work easier.
I'll be walking alongside Fiddly.
I am all for the sea shanties, Doc. What you got?
The Wellerman.
Everyone else need to make a sand roll. Depending on your shanty tolerance level, which you'll see.
It makes the work go easier.
So
Remember, lads, it's not how
it's-
well you sing; it's how loud you sing it. There we go.
it's a little bit arduous, but it's exciting, and it's work you can figure out. Where the passage runs across a stone ridge and gets narrow, you can figure out how to move the generator through.
As we're going through, is this like a well-worn path? Do we see like maybe tracks from the previous party or anything to indicate anything like that?
I think you might see an impression here or there that looks fairly recent and fairly man-made. There probably isn't. It's probably more an animal track that people have adopted.
Okay.
And it's more pebble than clay or dust, so it doesn't imprint as readily as some sorts of passes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would like another luck roll, please. You've been walking for 15 minutes, mostly due south. It's easy to keep track. So excellent work on the ferry, not so great work on the path.
It's very hot.
What's the worst failure? Nobody credit, obviously.
97.
76.
97.
Yes.
Finland is not a competition.
Everyone notices Finley suddenly flinch, oddly. And then you hear a sort of pinging sound, and then you hear a distant sort of pop.
Oh,
Dear
do I
God.
recognize this sound?
Is
Yeah,
somebody
you
shooting
do.
at us?
I'm going to Finley. You hear this pop, or you hear the ping, and I'm already halfway to you. You hear the pop, and he is almost straight like American football tackled you into a nearby scrub brush.
The camera
Everybody down!
flashes right before you.
Stop
By
shooting,
God,
we're not
under
wild
fire.
game.
I was gonna say I'm busy trying to untangle myself from the massive duffel bags that I put myself in. And
I guess you can both roll dexterity for me.
sorry, I didn't mean to start dictating actions without rolls.
It's all right. You
all
were
right.
dictating intention. You were announcing intentions.
Yes. Oh, unfortunately, I failed my dex roll.
Okay.
I got an 01 somehow.
Nice.
So while Spencer's trying to drop everything and rush to your aid, you protect him from himself and you. You got clipped by a little piece of rock that pinged off the bullet that he was suitably alarmed by. But you're fine, and you sort of like help him not knock you over or fall over, and you have a moment to breathe and collect yourselves. And you hear a voice that's a bit away, and it just calls out, sorry, who goes there?
Oh, I'm furious.
Who the fuck are you?
Spencer is while like sort of prone, is reaching for his bag and getting his Lee Enfield out. And he will
Spencer, no
back
harm done.
off.
No harm done.
We're in a rural area. They're probably out hunting for rabbits, and they saw Finley and thought he was a rabbit.
Is it because of my teeth, Doctor?
No, they don't always look. We're professors traveling to an archaeological site. Who are you?
Thank God you're here. Sorry. This is Anders. I'm the foreman. I've got the gun away from him now. It's all right. Please make your way. And you sort of are on a rise when this happens, and there's a little bit of a dip, and you can see there's two heads behind a boulder, and one of them is sort of waving his handkerchief at you, and then there's just the sort of hunched shoulders and a pith helmet next to him. And they're like on the other side of a dip in the path at the next rocky rise.
As I move to a
How are you with the dig?
Yes, it was. It's Meissner that's the problem. I've got the gun from him. It's all right.
We had a bit of an accident way back down the path. Our boat was damaged on the rocks. We've had to leave about 2/3 of our equipment behind. We could use some help retrieving it.
I'll be right down. We'll go and get the others at the camp. The figure stands up, but he's got this rifle in his hand, and he sort of leans threateningly toward the pith helmet, and then comes around the boulder and starts down the path toward you.
Spencer, still on his back, has produced a second cigarette from somewhere, still lit, and passes it over to Finley, and
Thank you.
Slings his rifle and stands, just like he was sweating from the exertion before, but now there's that cold sweat of anxiety that is just all over. You can tell he's keeping it together, but he's very much not happy as the cigarette just starts to rapidly sort of approach his face.
Is everybody all right? Nobody was injured?
Yeah.
Just right. He's a
That's
professor,
good.
not a sharpshooter.
Yeah, the piece of rock that hit you was small, and it hit you like just above your elbow, and it didn't. It's shocking, but.
Does anyone know if this Professor Meissner is traditionally shooting other faculty members? Is this one of those tenure things?
Dr. Offwhite, I presume you know him the best of all of us.
All of you only know Professor Hogarth. Hogarth is somebody that you have sufficient faith in that you would think that he wouldn't be sending you off to a tiny island with a maniac. So it's concerning, but circumstances must be unusual, is what you would imagine.
British define this gentleman as eccentric.
I mean, it's very possible they could be hunting and out of food and mistook us for game. I wouldn't
I'm
jump
sure
to
he didn't mean
conclusions.
anything by it.
Yeah,
He sounds like a fucking asshole, in my opinion.
My goodness, your language, Mr. Outhwaite.
A silver cigarette case will appear, open and offered towards Eli.
I just bring out a hand rolled and put it up to my mouth. Thanks, partner.
He will, with the same hand, sort of switch over to a lighter, as he's holding it with the two bottom fingers. He's holding his lighter with his index and thumb.
And I will lean over.
Right. Whew. Okay.
So by the time you've situated yourselves and gotten your fresh smokes, the fellow who's come up to you with the rifle and slung over his shoulder and his hand out, he's 30-ish, maybe low 30s, red-haired fellow, tall, raw-boned, I would say. He's got a button down and a vest, but no tie on, and khakis and boots. And I'm sorry again.
Anders, was it?
Yeah, John Anders. The professor is he's come a handful. We've been out of communication for a while now, and things are things have unraveled a little bit. He's not dealing with the stress well. I didn't think he could figure out how to even load the rifle, so I wasn't worried about him causing trouble. But you'll meet him. Let me help you with what you've got, and we're just a little bit over the next rise. We'll get the rest of the crew up to help you. Oh God, the generator. Good, thank God. All right, hi. And he'll introduce himself to each of you. He probably only knows a couple of your names because this was still being worked out.
How long would you say we've been walking to this point?
You've been walking about 15 minutes since you
okay.
moved the equipment. It's it's not you're not very far from the coast.
Well, tell the professor that some relief is here, and hopefully some stress release as well. Anybody bring cards?
No, but I've got.
I have a deck. Yes,
my name on it.
Excellent.
Yeah. What we need, Did they send a cook with you?
Oh, no.
A cook? No.
That's a shame. We'll figure it out. None of us has proven to be a dab hand at that since Cook wandered off, but I'll explain.
Can we say that I'm not so bad because I've got a lot of languages and cultures that I've played around with, so maybe I picked
What
up
is
some
with
cooking.
was it, Doc, you said it was an earthquake? What is that
on
this island?
If I didn't know better, I'd say somebody was blasting for something. We've had a handful of these kind of, how would you describe it? I mean, I felt it, but it wasn't bad at camp.
We felt it was a little bit more than somebody blasting. Felt like an earthquake. Shook the beach, the ocean.
I've been under bombardments less intense than that. What is happening at your dock?
Well, I'll tell you, we have a geologist in camp, and she's beside herself because there is no. We've had 4, 5, 6 of these tremors of varying strengths, and they're completely abnormal. Like, if I didn't know better, I would say that there was some maniac with dynamite but we don't hear any explosions. We're just feeling the ground shake, but it's kind of in pockets.
Aside, is this island, sort of out of character question, is this island inhabited?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 2. You're just nowhere near the inhabited areas.
Got it. So it's like Catalina.
Yeah. So actually, if you ask Anders, he's like, yeah, we're about as far from the nearest village as from the shore here. There's pretty big cities. I mean, there's ports on both ends of the island. People have lived here for thousands of years. Just not in this little pocket particularly. I mean, somebody did once because they left some things behind.
I imagine, Mr. Dupre, would you think that dynamite would cause that kind of a tremor? It wouldn't seem that it would be that big of a...
No. And I agree with Mr. Cartwright. I think it was an earthquake of sorts. I don't believe it was dynamite.
I hope y'all are right about no volcanic activity.
Could be fracking. If that's
fracking?
Invented.
No.
Yes.
Damn it.
I'm afraid that's a Spanish word I don't know.
Fuck, you use these words that...
Sorry. That's the Texan in me.
The Texan futurist.
Y'all aren't ready for that, but your kids are going to hate it.
So with Anders' help, you get a bit farther ahead over the next rise, and the first thing you see is a big stone T. It's a megalithic monument, and it's higher than anything else for some distance. Basically,
standing up or laying down?
Standing up. It's a fairly rectilinear, enormous vertical, and a very substantial and fairly rectilinear horizontal.
Like a Stonehenge, but with one this way, one that.
Stonehenge, but only one leg.
Okay.
And Andrews is like, yep, that's our Taula. The island's dotted with them. They're ancient, partly covered up in places. This one's different than most of them on the island, which is why Meissner wanted to start here. And he's been right about a lot.
You called it a Taula?
Yeah, it's a local dialect for table, actually.
A table.
And around this time, a sunburned, wiry man in his 60s wearing a collarless white shirt with a fringe of white hair runs up. And he says, I'm sorry about firing on you. We have enemies on the island. And because of the radio, I did not know when to expect you. So I have been very cautious. We are under siege here practically.
Goodness.
Yeah. Anybody wants to roll psychology on Professor Meissner is welcome to.
I also try to identify his accent as German.
Yeah, Austrian, but yeah.
I'll speak to him in German.
I succeeded in psychology.
Oh my! I have a psych of 10, and I actually made it.
I also succeeded. Got a 36 out of 40.
I technically got a extreme success. I got a 2 out of 10.
Fantastic. So it's evident to all of you that the man is stressed out. Looks like he's dehydrated. Looks like he maybe has not been getting enough sleep. Dr. Alvarado, you would say furthermore that this is not the first time in his life that this man has felt as though he was surrounded by enemies. And they're not, and he's usually wrong. And Mr. Blackwell, you further would say that not only should this guy not have access to firearms, but if you had your druthers, he might get strapped down. He also, though, clearly is a figure of authority. So that's the...
Oh, good. We have an officer who's lost it. Fantastic.
You probably had that experience before, to one degree or another. Yeah. So as you continue over that rise, you can see the layout of the dig site. Somebody was...
I'm going to sort of, in essence, take the professor under my wing, speak to him in his native language, and just try to, bring him down, ground him with something familiar, something that he'll enjoy, and ask him where he's from in Austria, and so forth.
When you switch to German, he looks at you in alarm for a moment, and then he seems to exhale with relief, and he totally will walk with you and begin to speak in slightly conspiratorial tones. You can refer to a cafe in Vienna together, and it's the cortisol level drops visibly, although you don't necessarily want to have to do that the entire time you're here.
No, but
yeah, everybody feels slightly relieved as the two of you start talking closely. And you begin down a slope. The camp is in a fairly broad, shallow valley. The stone tee, which is, at least 15 feet high, is to your left, which is east. There is another stone shape that's less impressive. That's kind of you're above it, so you actually get a sense of its overall shape. It's a bit like a stone boat that's upside down. It's flat side. It's got a flat side, and then it curves up to a sort of semi-flat roof, and it's roughly pointy at the other end. A little bit reminiscent of a church, also, and it's all hand.
But not
stacked
scale,
stone.
right? We're not looking at a building.
It's a small building.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's an opening on the flat side that you wouldn't be able to walk through, but you might be able to crawl through. And it's maybe 4 times that height. So it's, depending on how densely the stone is packed, it's big.
And it's all Neolithic.
It's all
yeah.
You can't age it visually, right. But it's all unmortared stone. It's and it's old, clearly old. And then there's several tents and that sort of thing set up to the right of that, sort of right in front of you. And there's another stone structure all the way to the right of that, which is kind of a more collapsed stone ring, like an old stone tower that might have been part of a castle in England or something. But it's not as intact as the T or the boat.
Definitely the foundations of something.
Something like the foundations of something. And the camp itself, there's a clearing, there's a few tents of various sizes. There's obviously like the latrine on one side and like a gathering area and some places for people to, be indoors for sleep and whatnot. And there's a couple of people outside underneath the external canopy area who wave their hats at you and so on.
I apologize. What is the name of the gentleman? Not the crazy professor, but the one that was
Anders.
John Anders.
Thank you.
John Anders.
I'm going to pull Anders aside and I guess recommend that that gentleman is not allowed in near anything larger than a pencil for the remainder of our stay.
Yeah, again, I'm sorry about that. I really didn't think that even if he figured out where we put a firearm, he'd be able to use it. It's hard to keep an eye on him. And he's technically in charge, and he's easier to manage if he doesn't feel like his authority is being threatened. And
I understand completely. Yeah. Considering the safety of the rest of the party, my friend, or the group, all of us here. So.
Oh, you're military, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, that's good. We didn't expect that we would need anything in the way of security here, and we've had some incidents. So
why don't you tell me what's going on? We'll maybe not right this moment, but I would like to get briefed on what's been happening, if that's all right.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think we should try to keep things in the open, and the other members of the party will help me explain. But yeah, it's been. I mean, we're down three people. Out of yeah, we've got 3 missing out of 9. It's I'll tell you about it.
Sure.
I don't think anybody's hurt, but
well, I think if it's that severe, I think everyone should hear, not just myself.
Well, I also thought if we talk about it with the rest of but we'll move all your stuff out first. So let me introduce you. And so we have cross introductions.
Sure.
Down in base camp. And this, considering that people are missing and the boss is nuts, things look pretty much in order. It's not obvious that there's no electricity because they wouldn't, the strings of lights wouldn't be on anyway at this hour. But there are strings of lights. There's cables, the tents are in decent shape. Like the people look like they're clean and not crazy, except for the professor.
Right.
And Anders introduces you. We've got, I mentioned Carol Ash. This is the geologist. They said that the tremor was pretty strong up on the shore. And she's like got a little notebook and she's scratching away at it and shaking her head. This is our mechanic, Frank Childs. And he's a guy, he's got a Navy tattoo on his forearm. He's got a toothpick in his mouth. He's
American.
Yeah, he's another Yank, and he's pretty beefy fellow. He's got oil that's permanently in his fingers. And he like when he sees that you've got a fresh generator, his eyes light up. He's just like, you're enormously relieved. These are our grad students. This is Hugh Maris and Anna Ramirez. And they are, as you expect, young, nerdy, cute, anxious-looking people.
What was Hugh's last name?
Hugh Maris. And when he shakes your hand, he's got an English accent, and he's a bit sunburned. And Ana Ramirez is maybe a little older, and she wears glasses. You presume that she's Spanish.
So Ramirez.
Ana Ramirez, not doctor. She's a grad student.
Right. So it's
Oh, okay. So his last name is Maris.
Oh yes, Maris and Ramirez. I didn't mean to make that confusing. They're not married.
The same. Okay.
I hate to say it, Hugh, but your name's a little funny.
Oh, God. If I had a note for every time I've heard that joke, I could afford much fancier accommodations here. But yes.
I mean, I'm sure you probably would just start shooting people at this point.
It's one takes it in stride. It's my grandfather's to blame. He was the first Humeris, and he didn't stop it. So.
Oh, this is a multi-generational pun. I like your family already.
There was a Hugh on the other. It's yeah.
So you're Humeris the Third, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I am not. My father is not a Humeris, happily, but I'm named for his father. So none of the Marises seem to learn. So next half an hour, you guys take the walk back, get the rest of the stuff, come back. If there's any side chat you guys are interested in having, or a private moment, you can insert that.
I'd like to have a. Go ahead.
Professor Althwaite, what do you make of these tables, tabla, taula? You're stunned, aren't you? You're just completely stunned. Oh no, you aren't alive. Dr. Althwaite.
Sorry, I forgot what I named myself. I was
He's a spy.
I thought you were stuck. He's talking to Mr. Other guy. Well, it seems similar to some things you see in the Middle East, but I'm not sure. It's unique. Most Paleolithic cultures are their own beasts.
Professor Althwaite, would you like to roll your archaeology?
Yeah.
These large stones on an island.
That is a hard success. I can make it an extreme.
No, a hard is lovely. What you recall is that these have been written about, although they have not been treated by modern archaeology. They were written about in the 19th century by a fellow who thought, because of the external parallel to Stonehenge, that there had been Celts on this island at some point in prehistory, and that they had built these. But what you know of anthropological movement and the times in question doesn't make sense that it could have been Celtish people. But you do know that these have been analyzed and studied in a pre-modern context, and that there are megaliths all over the world. I mean, human beings have a tendency to have, in prehistoric times, moved really big rocks for reasons that are often pretty obscure.
Yeah, I believe that one of the Greek people, maybe it was Herodotus. I can't say that in a southern accent. Herodotus said that there was an island of Celtic people around here, but that is just that's not.
Seems unlikely.
He also said that gorillas were people too. Or, I don't know. He was crazy.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think I've met a couple of officers, and definitely a sergeant that fits that description.
Well,
I'm curious as to what the various structures might be originally intended to be. The T has got me. Unless it was some point of worship, or it aligns with the sun like Stonehenge does, or
Well, for that matter, you got Meissner's ear.
Yeah.
So maybe you can draw.
He's kind of here with us. So
Outhwaite into it. So Meissner will wax rhapsodic, of course, on the matter. The Taula itself is perhaps the most mysterious of the three structures that are found, mostly unique to this island and not to the Majorca. The boat is suitably called a naveta, little boat. This is the one that the locals are most superstitious about. The people here are very backward, and they shun these monuments of ancient times. What we know of the naveta is it is older, and so more of it is buried in the sediment over time, and there are human remains within, so it may have been intended as a burial chamber. We are only beginning to determine this with any degree of certainty.
Fascinating.
The circular object is called taliot, and these are there are the most of these on the island of any of the stone structures, and they may have been guard towers of some ancient people here. Because the Mediterranean sees so much traffic over history, and this is the important part, you see. This is the exciting part. I think it is older than anyone knows. But the Romans come here, and then they are pushed out by the Moors, and the Moors come here and are pushed out by the Spaniards, and it goes back and forth over eons and eons. So one civilization or other. It is said that there were people on this island who only fought with bow and arrow and were always completely naked. But this is the sort of prehistory that I don't know that you can believe for certain.
Well,
the same way as
like
Atlantis.
Kind of party.
Oh yeah.
Fascinating.
So this complex is unique to the island because most times the Taula faces south, and this one faces east. And the proximity of the T to the Naveta is unique to the island, and that's why I want to explore this in particular. But we are very out of the way, and the locals are not friendly at all, and we have had so many difficulties, and the ground shakes, and it's not going as planned. But now you are here, we will have power again. Perhaps you can find the traitors, because I think there are traitors among us, because there are very valuable things. Yeah, and it's time for lunch, I think. Does any of you cook? We lost the cook.
I can try my hand at it.
As he's talking, I'm just gonna kind of lean back and look at Anders and just mouth traitors. Like not saying it, but just sort of like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Eye roll, shrug, sigh. The famous combination.
Yeah. Well then, don't know about you gents, but I could definitely go for a meal.
I'm famished.
Can't eat these all day.
So any other side conversations you wanted?
I'd like to have a word with Mr. Childs, actually, and inquire about the state of the camp itself and I'm assuming the radio has lost contact due to a lack of power.
Oh, that's part of it. The other part is that these tremors. We lost a lot of tubes. So, but also there's a couple of tubes that went missing. I don't know whether somebody collects shiny things or what that's about. But I don't think any amount of shaking can take the brass fitting out of where it's screwed into a radio set. Likewise, the generator definitely fell on its ass, and we're going to mount this new one on some tires and strap it in so that no amount of shaking is going to mess it up. But I'd also swear it fell on its side, and there was a pile of wrenches that it hit when it fell over, because it's got some dents in it that the gravel didn't do. I think the old Kraut's mad as a sack full of hammers, but I also think that somebody's trying to screw around with this whole expedition.
And we heard you had a few missing party members as well. Do you feel that's a cause for concern, or just people wandering off?
You know, I would say the cook's name was Ramis, Spaniard. He and one of the eggheads went to town, and I think honestly they found some gold ingot or some such in one of their digs, and they decided to get out of this and sell it for their own. They went into town to look around and get some. The cook wanted fresh greens and whatnot, because we're mostly eating out of cans and everything. And the egghead went with them, but I'm not sure that they didn't decide to take advantage of something and hightail it. And the other guy who's missing, I don't know. There's no dangerous animals here at all, but there's holes you could fall in, or maybe he went out for a morning swim and didn't know what he's doing, or I don't know. I'm not expecting to find anybody with a bullet hole in him unless Meissner gets hold of the rifle again. Nobody got hurt, right?
No. Just a little scared, but yeah. But we can. Thankfully, we have our generator. We can get things up and running again.
Yeah, I'll appreciate your help. You won't see Anders move as fast as he did when he realized that old Meissner had the rifle up on the rocks. So, welcome aboard. It's going to be great to be back in radio contact. And you tell me you brought some liquor.
Oh yes, I think if you ask around, you'll be able to find some of that.
Yeah, that'll be good too. A little tense around here.
So, I'll ask, how many folks do we have to feed?
Well, there's 6 of us and 6 of you.
All right. I'll see what they've got in their stores, and I will put something together.
Yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect for people with limited, with enough money and European sensibilities and no refrigeration and the necessity of roughing it. So lots of cans of things and sacks of things. And
so perhaps, because I tend to be rather easygoing with people and I speak quite a few languages, I'll head into town tomorrow and see if I can get some fresh vegetables and stuff for the meals.
Mm-hmm. And what you will know specifically, and what all of you might be aware of broadly, is that while a Spanish property, Menorca is not a majority Spanish-speaking locality. They speak a variety of Catalan called Menorquí. Everybody will have some Spanish too, but in the city, everybody will be bilingual with Spanish and Menorquí. Out here in the boondocks, only educated people are going to have good Spanish. But Catalan is enough like Spanish, and you are a linguist that you'll be, and markets are markets.
And I've got Portuguese, and probably.
Yeah, you should have no difficulty.
I can manage Catalan, yeah.
So everyone, there's coffee, there's tea, there's whatever palatable material, Dr. Alvarado, and I imagine some, people have been here for days since radio contact ended, and the cook's been gone for about half that time. So people are managing to open, anyone can put tinned peaches on a tin plate.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll take my can to go. I want to get cooking on photographing some of these things while the light's overhead.
Yeah. Talking to the others as we're going along, what was the name of the egghead that ran off?
The people who went to town together were Jorge Ramis, the cook, and Mitch Copper, the archaeologist, the assistant to Meissner. I mean, he's got a personal assistant who's the other person is missing. That's another crowd. Arthur Kleinschmidt is the one who is unaccounted for. And it was Copper and Ramis who went into town and didn't.
So Arthur disappeared. We don't know what happened to him.
And that was only 2 days ago. And the cook and the archaeologist went into town 4 days ago.
Ramis and
some of it is stir craziness. When the radio contact went out, and as odd things were happening, not only radio contact, but when the generator broke, that meant it was dark at night. And of course there are candles and things, but nobody's these are 20th century people, they can't. You get tired of the same 6 Victrola albums somebody brought.
It doesn't seem entirely out of the ordinary maybe out of the ordinary, but not out of the realm of possibility that the other archaeologists did find something and run off with it. You find a big chunk of gold, and
well, let's hope.
I don't know why the cook would have.
Maybe it took more than one man to move.
Yeah, but why the cook? I mean,
maybe he just happened to see Mr. Mitch Copper find something and couldn't keep it hidden.
Maybe.
It could be just opportunity.
Yeah. Maybe the cook found it, and then the archaeologist identified it, and off they went. That is pretty traitorous and shitty.
I'll be
more.
This whole time while everyone's talking. I'll just be like sketching maps of the area, or just as we were walking back to get stuff, trying to map things out, and just so we have a good idea of what the landscape is like and so on.
Mm-hmm.
How often have these tremors been occurring?
Who are you asking?
The geologist.
Sure, that makes sense. She says, I am sure of only 6 of them.
Okay.
But they seem to be strangely local, considering how forceful they are. And of course, nothing has affected the stone monuments here, despite the fact that ancient rocks will have aged and shifted and have the possibility to fall apart. The one that broke the radiator happened. Let's see, that was that 3rd, and it happened quite in the middle of the night, so no one was about to see or hear anything, except there were a couple of cries as we were startled out of our slumber by a fairly heavy, and it felt like a quake. There are caves in the island, and I believe there are caves near here, but I don't know what. It's not as though there's an underground train rattling through them to shake things up. And well, you said that the one at the shore was very significant.
Yes, quite, Mr. Cartwright. I don't know if you have any particular knowledge of earthquakes. I don't, but it felt quite like an earthquake.
It was strong enough to knock me over, and we could visibly see the ground moving and the water receding and come back. It was honestly a little alarming. And so you're saying they've never been that strong here?
Well, to knock it must have been at least that forceful to have the radiator or the generator fall off its mount.
Okay.
but they haven't affected the stone monuments particularly. And so today makes six. Today makes six that I know of. Although um, uh, they must be a new. I mean, there might be something. There might be a great. If I could figure it out, there might be a great paper involved. I wonder if there isn't something hydraulic involved. Perhaps some breach has happened with some of the caves in the island, and there's a sudden shift of water pressure that causes some sort of bubble or pop or something. Because the church in the village, its tower wouldn't withstand a thing that would knock you on your off your feet or knock a generator onto its side. It's only, I don't know, 2.5 stories high, but it's stone, timber, and clay. It would crumble to nothing. So these must be extremely local or very novel. I don't I've been taking copious notes. I can show you if you care. And I will be sending back uh, documentation as best I can. I don't have any proper mechanism. I wasn't expecting any seismological activity.
The ocean was quite disturbed by it as well. It pulled away from the shore and came crashing back. It's one of the reasons why we got thrown onto the rocks and had to get off.
Oh yeah, we
Transport our
probably
stuff
should tell
off.
them that the ship that took us is not available to get us off the island.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you go ahead, Spencer. I'm sorry.
oh, um, after hearing all of that, I think Spencer's going to excuse himself and do a quick walk of the perimeter, just try to get a good layout of the camp and sort of the surrounding environs.
And if we've eaten already, I'll have to appoint somebody else to do the dishes because fuck that. I did the cooking.
Right?
But I'll go for a walk with Spencer as he's going out and just casually, off the cuff, talking to him. You seemed pretty concerned at Professor Meisner's uh, radical behavior and talk of traitors. But Spencer, that professors of archaeology, they don't get paid a lot. And what they get is fame and prestige from making discoveries. And they will cut each other's throats to steal each other's work. So that's probably what's led him to that position. It's probably his whole lifetime of work that's made him extremely wary of people, especially other archaeologists.
Doc,
Like,
that's fair. I hadn't considered that. I bit on edge.
and
It's
he's
been a long
old. He's old. So.
been a long time since I've been shot at. Some of the old aggression came back. So still, the man's phrasing and shooting at us was not exactly the greatest first impression.
No, not at all.
Uh,
You reacted very quickly, and I was still wondering what the hell was going on.
some things never leave you, unfortunately. And my concern is, well, I mean, I've seen command lose it before, and I'm just concerned that we may be seeing a repeat here. I think the best course of action will be to let him remain in charge, but perhaps
With
creatively
guidance.
interpret any of his
Yeah,
instructions.
with some guidance. I think it's a bit of a mystery if we can find out what happened to Ramez, Copper, and Kleinsheart. Of course, it could just be accident, but Copper was an archaeologist. So whoever gets back fast enough and writes the paper quick enough and gets it published soon enough gets all the newspaper.
Uh, this is your realm, Doc. Unfortunately,
Well, I'm a linguist, but I do have enjoy some art. I do have archaeology and
I meant that
anthropology
more
is
as
part of it.
academia. The
Yeah.
I live in Oxford, so I'm used to dealing
Professors
with
can
old
be
professors.
horrible and vicious to one another.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've seen dog fights with less ferocity than some of the debates I've attended on a lark. Uh, but anyway,
Um,
uh,
So
when did
Mr. Cartwright was going to do a tour and start making graphical notes of the area.
so we
Finley,
probably see him? Yeah.
are you going to sort of go with him for photographic purposes,
Yeah,
or how do
that
you want to
probably
break
makes
up
sense.
this as and I guess after you eat, and also you like stake out some tent spots for yourselves. I mean, it's cots and simple stands and things, nothing elaborate.
Yes, as long as I won't slow Cartwright down, I'm more than happy to do that because then I can make notes on his map where I took the photos from.
Oh, absolutely. That will actually help me when we get back as well. It could be a joint collaboration of your photographs, my map. I see nothing but benefits.
And maybe once we get to that boat, we can see if we can get a picture inside.
oh, not there. Sorry.
I'll also tend, as the evening progresses, to make myself friends with Frank and Carol and Hugh and Anna.
The atmosphere is a little tense and uncertain. Everybody's happy you're here, happy that civilization is intact, happy to see new faces. But Meister's active. I mean, and there's their area where some finds have been gathered that are interesting that you'll maybe at dinner time exploration or somewhat. But people are happy to see you, and nobody seems particularly troublesome except for Meissner.
They're just stressed out.
They're a little stressed out, and the majority opinion is that the cook and Copper had a personal thing with Meissner and just took off. They don't think they found anything valuable. They think that they were less concerned about their paycheck or their relationship with this particular academic to put up with his rather dictatorial and confusing behavior.
I'll break out the digestives and pass around a little bit afterwards, and maybe we brought some brandy.
The second leg of the trifecta of the British soldier.
So Finley and Cartwright, or Fisher and Cartwright, you do a tour around. Are you stopping in each of the structures in turn, or sort of navigating the outside, or what's your approach?
I mean, whatever would make, I think, logical sense for us to go around. I think, if probably dotting from, as we go around and get close to one of them, then, go up to it. And
right. So since you're in this sort of broad, shallow valley, you can start on one side and you're got a little bit of high ground, which is nice for both of your endeavors. And then you can stop at the nearest object of interest.
Right.
It's clear that some of the lower part of the Taula was dug too. Like there's a general depression around it, meaning it was partly covered with soil over some period of time. And so they've been digging toward a base, and they're not at the base yet. It's still, the rock goes into the earth. And it's impressive. Depending on how old these things are, and they're quite weathered, the technology or manpower to to put this together in a way that is stable is notable. They're also digging toward the base of the Naveta, so that and they've dug more toward where there's an opening in the rock than toward the back, so it's sort of exposed at an angle. It's very tightly fit stone. There's not much growing in the rocks. So what either the rainfall or the aridity or something, it's mostly just stone on the outside. It's very dark inside. And given its height, the walls must be very thick because there's not a lot of inside when you try to peer in. Do you want to try a flash shot, Finley?
Yeah, if I have that kind of technology, I would love to attempt. Otherwise, you said it face east. Is that correct? The openings?
The opening face toward the east, yeah.
Right, that may become a tomorrow thing if this fails, because I could, in theory, get some sunlight in there.
Yeah, I think you're going to be... you're going to have a limited amount of big bulbs.
Okay.
So you're going to have to choose your battles because they're fragile as all get out.
Yeah. I'll do one. I'll attempt it before it's disturbed further.
Right. And you're going to have to figure out also whether you want to try to set up a little dark room here under primitive circumstances, or whether you're going to wait until you get everything out. Or maybe you can set something up in the village, but it's a little bit of a hike.
I hear tell of caves. That would be a pretty useful place for that sort of thing. But yeah, that's at the back of my mind for the moment. I want to just fill up some roles.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we we'll just shoot photography, even though it's kind of an observational role.
It's a 7. Oh no. 77, but I'm gonna spend 12 points of luck to succeed because I cannot fail my first photography roll.
Oh, pride is always the point of failure. So you did prepare yourself visually against the flash just so that you would be able to see as well as shoot it. So you set the camera in the aperture, got the flash in front of you and behind it. You block and you turn away and you get a shot. And it's Sanral.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's promising. Oh yeah, 05, I'm fine.
Fine. You were totally cool and collected because maybe you didn't prepare against the flash as well as you thought, because what you see can't be what you thought you saw. It's totally dark in there. You can barely make out, the first foot in front of you from the natural sunlight. The carapace of stone is totally opaque. So you can set everything up. You set up, you fire and flash at the same time, and you see a long, deep, narrow chamber of stone with an earthen floor, mostly clear but pebbly. Part of it is a little bit, there's a dip that's in shadow, and in that shadow you can see parts of bones. And you also see a hunched over humanoid figure that doesn't have a face and is blue in color. It looks like it could be a bloated, it's on two legs, but it's bent over, and the headish shape of it is pointed toward you, but there's no face. And then, the flash is what, 1/10 of a second?
Yeah.
And it's pitch black again, and you've got sparkles before your eyes. But you're calm.
Yeah, he just kind of pulls out and goes, there's some kind of statue or something in there. We'll have to get a torch and look within.
What statue, really? The professor didn't mention that. That's interesting. You think he would have?
He doesn't seem the most stable individual.
That's true. I wonder if Eli would know what type of statue or.
Oh, that's great. Maybe he can go in there and take a look at it. How big is the opening? to this? Like, could we fit through it if we gave a squeeze?
You can, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable for all fours. You could probably, the stone's going into the earth again, so you could probably dig some soil to make it easier. What are the rest of you doing while they have been on their roundabout?
Well, I was going to go, but so maybe I'll meet up with them.
I'm sorry, you were going along? I missed that.
No, that was just, I was planning on, I didn't think that they were going to go directly to the temple, but that was my plan.
Well, this is all an open sort of plain. Like, this is not, you can see that you could have watched them. You could have been like setting stuff up on your cot and made a note, and you could come out and see them headed toward the Nevetha and go and join them there. That's totally reasonable. Because that all of you can see what anybody's doing if they're not inside a tent or hiding.
Yes. Elihu, there's a statue in here.
Oh, excellent.
Have you heard of a blue faceless, some sort of hunched over man?
Hunched over. Now, from this period, there are plenty of faceless statues, like the Venus of Navarone or something like that.
Well, isn't that due to elements, or because if this is in the boat, wouldn't it be protected? Like, it should be in good condition.
Sometimes it's due to carving skill. I mean, stone doesn't decay like you think. I mean, the Sphinx was a exception. It was like blasted off or something.
That makes sense. I mean, Meisner, or whatever his name is, said that there were multiple, conquesting people who came through. It would make sense that they would, defile the gods of the people they were taking over, or something they found offensive, I suppose.
Effacing is a common practice known to cultures all across the world. In Mesoamerica, very common. Also in Egypt, as I said.
Well, why don't we pop back, get a flashlight, and take a look? Okay, sure. I'll go do it.
Sure.
Trot.
Naturally, when you crouch down with your three heads together, and point the most powerful lantern you have in there, you just see the inside of a stone channel. There's some bones in a depression. There's also actually there's a string of those round lights that's been set into the wall here. If I guess probably we can get our engineers to set the new to prepare the new situation for the new generator and so on. We can light it up full time. There's bundled cable to electrify most of the spots.
I'm just gonna look at Fisher and Cartwright kind of expectantly.
I don't know what to tell you. Maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. I can look at the negatives later. That's odd.
Interesting. I don't want to defile this site with my unholy boots, but wouldn't hurt to just pop in.
Absolutely. Do you want to take what you've probably got a kit bag with trowels, brushes, that sort of dental equipment, so you can. But you'll need a
torch.
Yeah, you'll need a light source. Or you can go and yell at Dupree and there's a cat on my notes, child, and see if you can hurry them into getting the place lit. It's going to be close in there. A couple of people are going to feel close. I mean, you could easily get 4 people crouching working in there without stepping on each other's toes, but you can't really be two people sideways. It's long and fairly shallow.
Oftentimes, people who live near cave systems would imitate them in their architecture.
That makes sense.
And if Meissner's right, and this was, some sort of grave or burial, I mean, that's also, that's a global phenomenon. In fact, from just taking the flashlight and shining around in there, where they've begun to dig, the remains look like it could be human remains that have been there for who knows eons.
Well, I'll be happy if you do want to go in. I'll follow after so I can get some pictures in the lantern light. I'll stay by the entrance.
Don't worry, Fisher. We won't make you take point.
That looks pretty tight in there. I'll let you both go in while I finish my mapping of the area from right here, just from what I can see.
All right, if we're not back in 10 minutes, call Francisco Franco or whoever's running Spain, the president.
Actually, Menorca, when that happened, sided with the previous government for what it was worth. Got 20 years, or 15 years or so. Dupree, is there anything in particular you want to do about setting up your end of things?
Yes, I was going to get with Mr. Childs and get the generator set up to his preference. It sounds like he really wanted to make sure another tremor didn't take it down. And try to get power onto these people. I'm assuming that the day is moving on, so I want to make sure we have some light by nightfall. So you're muted.
You're on mute.
David.
This time of year, you are at about 12 hours of daylight, so
okay,
and it's pretty
still,
clear.
They all seem eager for electricity, so I'll get that set up with Mr. Childs.
Yeah, to expand the workday, to make the food preparation easier, because that's an intent activity and all that. Mm-hmm. Why don't you roll an appropriate skill if you're going to look at the previous generator?
I would like to do that, actually.
Because that'll be part of setting it up. You have to move all of the connections from the old thing that's broken to the new thing.
That is exactly an extreme success.
Brilliant.
Oh, there you go.
You are sure that nobody's been lying about the tremors, and you experienced one yourself, but this was obviously sabotaged. And by somebody with a reasonable degree of sophistication, because they didn't electrocute themselves. And what they did was, in addition to knocking it over, short it out, which is, this is not a sophisticated modern object. This is the naphtha burning, giant dynamo with big ugly metal bits in it that'll kill you if you're dumb or so on. So there's credence that there's some kind of sabotage going on.
Interesting.
Are you gonna...
I will bring that to Mr. Blackwell. I'd like to finish the work here, but I would bring it to Blackwell's attention.
So Childs has this setup where he's brought out some 2x4s and some hemp rope, and he has car tires that he's scavenged, and so the whole thing is like a sort of boat with a much wider base than the generator had. Might make it just slightly quieter, as well as making it pretty hard to tip over. Do you address your concerns about the sabotage with him?
I think I will, actually. I had gotten the sense of him, and I don't read people well as a character. I had gotten the sense that he was also inconvenienced by all of this, so I would assume he had nothing to do with it. So I'll point out, this was clearly somebody did this. Is anyone else on your team would you consider them to be particularly mechanically inclined?
I don't think most of them could screw in a light bulb without messing it up. So you're looking at that that scorch mark, right? Like this was shorted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Blackwell, come see for a second. I think this is something that would interest you as well.
I'm assuming I've returned from my patrol around the camp.
The
Oh,
only
sorry,
thing
maybe
you
had it
saw
then.
while you did your circumambulations, you can see from the ridge opposite where you came in on the southern side of this valley, you can see the little town that's a ways off. Can't see it very clearly because there's some ridges in between. You can see a little church tower and a scattering of sort of whitewashy looking buildings. You can see, in fact, a little bit of the blue of the Mediterranean on the other side past it, but only in a hazy, distant sort of way. You did not see any other human habitations or signs of recent activity. Twice you saw, you're pretty sure, a black cat or maybe a very dark rodent of some kind just hopping off just as you looked at it. Like,
Okay.
just out of sight, something that didn't want to be noticed.
Huh. Would a spot hidden help with that? Or...
That's assuming that you were on the alert. That's as much as you were
Okay.
going to see.
Fair enough. So just for my mental image, so the camp's at the bottom of a basin.
It's a big flat valley. It's
Got it.
it's between two parallel ridges, and they close a little bit at a distance, but there's nothing steep anywhere going on. It's all quite open and visible.
Got it. Well, I think up here would be a good at least observation point at the very least, but I think I will make my way back down. We can worry about setting up long term tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So having done your circumambulation and the engineer and laborer having put some time in together, it seems like an appropriate time for you to have a conversation. If
Absolutely.
Dupree sees you coming back.
At this point, he does have his Webley like he's got his holster on his Webley, and he's got the Lee Enfield sort of slung on his shoulder.
Okay.
Since we are officially sort of out in the bush. So, well, I'm going to go over to Mrs. Is it Miss Dupree? I'm guessing Miss Dupree.
Miss Dupree, yes.
Dupree and the engineer, see what's going on.
If you look here, see those marks? Someone did this purposefully. This wasn't a tremor.
Maybe the nutty professor's onto something.
I might at this point I kind of lean a little bit closer, maybe to just have the conversation between the two of us for a second. Someone who knew what he was doing, or what she was doing, but they knew.
And I hate it when the crazies are right. Well, I'll have to keep an eye out. What? Let me see. So, Mr. Childs, have you guys found anything of value? Was there a reason for any of this?
Well, you have to define the value according to circumstance, right? There's very old objects here, things that Meissner is very excited about. Nothing that you could run off and sell that I've seen, but that doesn't mean that somebody didn't see something they could see. So, there's old writing on bits of broken rock or clay. There's bits and pieces, but I haven't seen any Inca gold, if that's what you mean. But
if we'd found Inca gold, that raises a lot of questions.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
We take your meaning, Mr. Childs.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. There's no reason to think that there's treasure here. Although the there were pirates. It's, any island where there's things happening, there'll be some piracy. But it's not, it's like, I don't know, 4,000-year-old pirates. So what are you going to get then? There's no doubloons.
True.
All I know is I was afraid that someone broke the generator on purpose, but I assumed I was being unreasonable. Maybe the atmosphere was getting to me. Mr. Dupree seems like a very competent person and looked at the same things I did and came to the same conclusion. So I wonder if it's not somebody from the village they say that folks around here are superstitious and don't like any of this ancient hoo-ha.
Is there any animosity from the locals toward this group that you perceived?
I haven't scarcely been into the village. A couple folks have come and gone, in addition to the ones that came and didn't go back. I couldn't tell you.
Or is there a priest in town?
There's a church. There must be a priest. I mean, this is Spanish colony, and there's going to be Catholics.
Exactly my thinking. Maybe we should pay a visit tomorrow, Miss Dupree, and see if our friend of the cloth can't shine some light on maybe some of the animosity, or at least some of the local superstition on the places here.
Not a terrible idea. Well, let's shed some light ourselves on this camp, yes? Get this generator
Sure.
completed.
Sorry, what can I do to help?
You guys take another 10 minutes to actually make sure that the cables are connected to the right other things, and puts canvas so that people don't trip over the wires, and you crank the thing up and there's a loud sputter and then a quieter regular hum, and all the little incandescent lights go boop, 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 into the late afternoon, and it's kind of pretty looking. It adds a festive air to the whole area. It'll make making dinner easier. It'll make crawling around inside an old stone tomb easier.
We did bring a radio. Is there someone we need to report into?
It's not a bad idea to reestablish radio contact. There'll be a base nearby on the Spanish shore, and you have contact. You'll have telegraphy as well to the university in England, so that you can get everyone in touch. And in fact, that's a question, because do you have missing parties? And somebody has to decide what to report about that. So that's when maybe Anders is going to stroll up with his arms crossed and a pencil behind his ear, and ask, it's been 8 days. We're not expected to report with any particular regularity, but with one guy missing 2 days and one guy missing 4 days, what do you think the protocol should be? And I'm going to have to discuss it with Meissner either way, or he'll have our heads. But is 2 days, is 4 days, I went to the village after the cook and copper wandered off, and they said they bought 2 mules and headed east. I have no reason to doubt them. If it's true,
said that at the start. We thought you said disappeared, but now you're telling us.
Well, they're missing. Then they've disappeared from me. I don't know. As I said, I didn't think anybody was dead. I just don't know how to account for them.
Right. Okay.
But somebody's going to have to account for them. They've got families. They've got university affiliations. I think that I kind of been. I mean, whatever. We didn't have any choice. I'm not eager to ruin Copper's career. Meissner is very difficult to work with. And if he just needed to get out of here and he couldn't get back in touch with us, right? Maybe we'll hear from him in 2 days and say, sorry, family emergency, right? He'll get to the coast. He'll send a telegraph back and say, had to rush back. I'm not eager to report anybody being traitorous.
No, I think.
But I also think I don't know what the issues are regarding the outside world now that we can be in contact.
I think the best course of action, at least from my stance, would be to just reestablish communication.
Hmm.
I'm concerned about the 4-day disappearance. The 2-day, we might be able to explain, but I think that it would behoove us to at least mention that there are people who are not at the base camp.
No, that makes
We
sense.
don't necessarily have to use the word missing or admit we don't know where they are.
We don't have to say missing, traitor, thief.
We can just, we can even float the idea of perhaps there was some kind of interpersonal conflict and
and there was
needed some time away.
Yeah, and it's been dark at night. I mean, I've gone out every night, and Childs has gone out as well, just to see if there was some, if Kleinschmidt had just fallen down and twisted his ankle over a ridge, we'd have found it by now. He had to go farther away than that. But yeah, so right, so we'll reestablish contact at the university. We'll say that you've arrived, that you're all safe. What was the name? What was the steamer you came in on?
The Lenora.
We'll say the Lenora, and it limped off, right?
Correct.
Yes, took on water.
Report for repairs.
And I'll get a report from Ash describing what she can about the tremors, because maybe something's been measured somewhere else. Again, we've been totally in the dark. So we'll get out the tremors, and the 3 parties are absent from the absent is a word, right?
I think that's a fair word.
Currently 3 parties absent that we're looking to be in contact with. That sounds like it's not going to cause immediate trouble or make Meissner go ballistic. Anything else you want to tell the mainland while we're in contact?
I don't think we should mention, as much as I would love to, don't think we should mention Meissner took a shot at us.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how you feel in 48 hours, whether you want to try and get him hauled away. Probably it's going to take 8 days to get him out of here if we want to. Because unless we drag him off kicking and screaming and put him on the back of a mule ourselves. And, I mean, he's onto something. He's found things nobody else has seen. All right, I'll radio. Yep.
I just want, if I didn't say it and you had mentioned it, it might have caused more problems. So I'm willing to let it go. Man's obviously under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
But in exchange, I want you to help me keep an eyeball on him.
Understood. Your linguist seems to have a very soothing effect on him, so I'll try to make that not too exhausting, but take advantage of that potential.
Sounds like a plan. Did you want to make the radio call?
Yeah, I'll make the radio call. If anybody wants to sit in and chime in, they're welcome to.
I had more
And
interest
I'm
in looking at
speaking-
the old radio. Did Childs insinuate that it had been sabotaged as well, or was it just...
He did insinuate that, yeah. Why don't we again roll for your forensic skill and technical matters?
No, but I will spend the luck. Yes, I will spend the luck to make it a regular success.
How much was that going to cost you?
5.
Yeah. That's not crazy. Again, any reasonable observer would say that if a radio of this vintage and nature fell off a table, it would not work anymore. These bulbs are fragile. The power cord could be yanked out if it had been tied around something and it fell just the right way, but it's not likely. And as he suggested, when a vacuum bulb shatters, its base doesn't go away. So it looks like something was unscrewed, and maybe that means that somebody pocketed it, and there are some vacuum tubes somewhere around. But yeah, it looks like sabotage. You guys, this party was cut off from civilization actively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll make make the high sign at Blackwell. Definitely sabotage.
So we're approaching time. We have, I believe, a party of 3 crawling into a dark, bone-strewn structure.
I think Roland was waiting outside, right?
Yeah.
We need 1 survivor.
Roland's in communication, has a second torch. There is, the illumination from this string of incandescents isn't going to make it a photograph easy. You'd need a long exposure from these bulbs, but you can see the lay of the land. And clearly, again, this was the lower parts of the stones show that they were underground before this excavation began, maybe the 1.5 feet on average. And so you're digging into not only the structure itself, but the history that's collected on it. You'll have more room to move around as you go farther down, presumably. There's where it hasn't been too much disturbed, the soil is pebbly. Where it has been disturbed, it's a fairly thick clay soil. Of course, nothing's been able to grow in here forever. The construction is really even. Like as you look around, where the wires were shoved in between rocks to hold the cable that strings the light together, it doesn't seem as though any stone has fallen out of this since it was constructed umpteen years ago. For whatever reason, Meissner decided to start actively digging down in the left and toward the back. So from the foot that's been leveled broadly, it goes down another couple of feet in gradations. And what you see are, he's got a small wooden, like an old apple box that he's put in some bones that are wrapped in cotton, separated. He's labeled some of them with just black ink. And it's femurs and ribs and, partial skulls. At least one skull fragment that's pretty big has a trepanation hole in it. So while the human was alive, somebody bored a hole in their skull, and they lived long enough for it to heal partially. So there is some growth of bone inside that ring. And there is nothing like a blue statue in here. There is nothing bigger than a femur, let alone what looked like a crouching human form.
And if we kind of stop and look where it would have been crouched, is there any disturbance in the earth?
The only area that isn't gravelly or clay soil or a depression in clay soil with some bones sticking out is a bit of a tunnel, kind of a fist-sized tunnel near where the excavation of the bones are. right against the wall of the naveta in the back, kind of like a rat would burrow. And you can shine a light into that gap. Again, you can see shovel marks around the area that's been cleared. This is more organic looking. It's just something that a burrowed hole that disappears into the darkness at the back wall of the stone ossuary.
Elihu, do you know if they have snakes around here? Is that something we should be concerned about?
I wouldn't be so sure. The ancient Mayans used to dig small tubes down to graves of famous, people that had died so they could communicate with them. This might be part of the structure. So
should we listen? See if someone's talking?
I'll go sort of listen to see if I can hear wind or any how far it goes in.
Then Professor Outhwaite moves past you over to, squeezes into the back where you're shining the light down, and he very quiet down there. But there is faintly cool, fresh breeze.
This definitely connects to a bigger chamber. I think I might have been onto something there. That was a wild guess.
That's very exciting. So if we keep digging, if we follow this hole,
I'd be careful with keep digging. You could collapse a cave. I think there's more than likely an entrance somewhere, probably buried or something like that. They had to intern the person in there. If it is a grave, they likely accessed it.
Hey, Roland, how do you feel about doing some cave searching tomorrow?
For the entrance, he kind of shouts back, caves?
Caves.
I don't think this is big enough to be a cave.
No, Elihu said there's all kinds of caves underneath, filled with dead kings or something.
Oh, yeah. Let's map that out.
Definitely some sort of cave system.
Gonna need my flash bulbs. He's planning out all these pictures he's gonna take. They're gonna be so awesome.
Are there any grave items buried with the bones, or is it just bones?
All that has been removed into the little crate or that has been brushed off and dug around so far is human material. There are teeth. It's possible that if there were things that were on string, that the string decayed. It's not, and so far, it doesn't appear like these are laid out figures, but more like bones maybe that were already clean or decayed, were sort of chunked in or shoveled in, or maybe it was a mass of bodies that sort of just got mixed together over great periods of time and disarticulated, but it doesn't appear in the tomb kind of where you might see a figure laid out with a bit of necklace here and a cup or whatever, or a staff, something on their side. It's more general than that.
That would imply that this was some sort of a sacrificial place. Usually, if it's a burial, you would be buried with grave goods.
Mm. Well, you're not going to have a lot of space to sacrifice people here, maybe, but it's kind of a pain to get into.
Yeah. I would bet dollars to donuts, if donuts are invented yet, that there's some sort of cave paintings or something down there.
Well, you're the archaeologist. If you say let's find some caves, I say we'll go looking for some caves. Otherwise, I bet Meisner would be happy to keep digging.
Yeah, let's ask the Kaiser before we go poking around on a wild goose chase.
Speak of the devil, Meister comes out of the tent toward the covered sort of dining and communal area, and he's sort of dragging Anna Ramirez out from the tent with him, and he says, I think Maris is missing. We haven't seen Hugh since after lunch. Has anyone seen Hugh? Anna here I just found her in his tent, dicking around. I'm surrounded by traitors. I can trust none of you.
He doesn't have a gun, does he?
He's not armed. He's just
Okay.
he's sort of he's a little, his mouth is kind of wet and his eyes are bulging, and she looks just, not terrified, but anxious as he's sort of dragging her out. And she's trying to speak to him. He's completely ignoring. It's like, we have a murderess and a traitor, and everyone is trying to interrupt my work. We have to find Hugh, and this liar. I don't know. Could we send it to the village, or I'm surrounded by traitors and fools.
Mr. Blackwell, do something.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to interrupt. So as he's going on this tirade, I'm just going to sort of get over to him and see if I can start sort of calming him down, peeling him away, and I'm going to wave over Dr. Philippe because I know that they get on.
I'll come over.
Who are you? Leave me alone. This woman's a traitor. I don't know where Hugh is.
Doctor,
That's four people now. Traitors and...
We arrived this afternoon. Do you not remember?
Did after the lunch, I was passing around some drinks with people. Did I see Hugh go off somewhere? Did any of us see Hugh?
This is the famous spot hidden is not the right tool problem.
Awareness.
Let's use idea rolls.
Okay.
To see when somebody last noticed Hugh.
Yes, I was vaguely interested in Hugh. And a 22 out of. I could spend 7 points and make it an extreme.
Hard is good. Let's see what other people did.
Oh, I also rolled a 22, which is also hard.
Because I'm treating it as relative, like the better the roll, the more recent you spotted him, is how I'm doing it.
Right.
More recently you spotted him. So those two are excellent. Any other successes? Okay.
I do technically have a success, but it's just a regular success.
All right. So Spencer, you last saw him. Everybody saw him when Alvarado was complaining about the washing up after lunch, and Hugh rolled up his sleeves like a good college fellow and got in there. Blackwell, while you were perimeterizing,
correct,
you saw him sitting on a rock, just a boulder outcropping thing a little bit away from the Talayot, the circular building, and he was sketching in a sketchbook or making notes, but he was out on his own. He had a hat and his little sunglasses, and he was drawing. Alvarado and Dupree, let's see, what have you been up to this afternoon, Dr. Alvarado? Mostly?
Well, I've just mostly been getting to know everybody. So,
right.
I did go with Spencer for a bit of a walk, but then eventually he went on. And I went back.
So having sort of noticed Hugh earlier and having an eye out about him broadly, while you and Spencer were walking, you saw Hugh head toward the dormitory, basically, with the sketchbook under his arm. And he passed right by you, Miss Dupree, on his way there, and said something vague about, excellent to have live music again in the evenings and be able to check in and all that. What? Excellent work. If you need a hand, I don't know the first thing about those things, but I can, read some poetry to you while you work or whatnot. And he sort of blushed and rubbed his nose and went into a flap in the tents. And that was only about 45 minutes ago, maybe an hour.
And is that the tent that the professor just came out of?
It's the dormitory tents are sort of like a cluster of like 4 or 5 things that have compartments, in between them. So they're all like you could rush out of them from anybody's cot,
Right.
into the public space.
So at the moment, what I will do is I'm walking up to the professor, speaking in his German, Austrian. I'm going to try to get Anna's hand away from him.
Mm-hmm. It's the. Sure.
Can I roll a psychology to say the right things, if you will? Or what would that be? Persuade?
I was thinking it was going to be one of the more social ones, like persuade, or
okay.
Probably I would avoid intimidate, given his.
I wouldn't intimidate anybody anyway. Oh, I got 35, and my persuade is 30. I'll spend the 5.
Brilliant. Okay. She looks enormously relieved, and sort of like acknowledges you, like as she starts, and her arm is red, from his grasp, and he's just sort of, he goes from maniacal to abject, and he just is explaining to you in German that the work is so important. And so few of them understand, and if he had better resources, it would be world-changing. But he is surrounded by these unnecessary troubles. And that girl why was she spying around? And why I'm missing now 4 of my party? I will be destroyed. And the Minoans were here, and the Cretans. And as far as I know, this was Atlantis itself. And no one will listen to me if I'm considered this madman, because my crew is murdered by some pagans or maniacs or someone from the University of Munich. I think it's there, and so on. And you have to sort of bring him down again.
I'll pass Anna's hand towards. I'll direct her towards Spencer. Just was she poking around? I don't know, but. Yeah, my job's now to calm down the professor. I'll give him some, I don't know what I brought with me. Definitely, we'll just say schnapps.
Yeah, he'll be happy if it's schnapps.
Yeah.
And Spencer, what Anna has to say is that she had planned to go on a pre-dinner walk with Hugh. They had talked about it in the afternoon before he went sketching. She had been reading in the shade. The afternoon was a little hot for her taste. And he was late, and so she looked around the camp for him. And the minute she opened the flap to go into his tent and see if he had fallen asleep or something, Meissner came in and assaulted her.
Assaulted her, like grabbed her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just accused her of skullduggery, grabbed her and yanked her out for a public humiliation.
He was lying.
But she doesn't know where Hugh is, and it's starting to get dark again. And
you said I saw him sitting and sketching somewhere. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. But that was a couple of hours ago.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
See if his sketchbook is there.
Well, yeah, I would like to return to the last place I saw him.
Well, I saw him wander toward the dormitories not that long ago, not even an hour.
45 minutes.
Well, well, I mean, let's go look at the dormitory tent.
Concerned as a group, using the new electric light that you've got available, you cluster in. It's a little close. I mean, your individual sort of cot areas are only, 8 by 6 feet or whatever.
Right.
So people are sort of craning around to look into Hugh's sleeping area. And on his cot is a sketchbook and a box of colored charcoals. And next to the cot are his boots, which are dusty. And inside this little chamber with its earthen floor and canvas walls, there is no sign whatsoever of graduate student Hugh Maris. And that's where we'll end it for tonight.
Got it. All right.
Our players included Max Meltzer, Holly Buteau, Gordon Lewis, Tyler Hudak, Nathan Decker, and myself, with David Gassaway as the keeper of arcane lore. We have a Discord server where you can chat with other members, you can set up private games, and you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to help support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. Or you can hit the Super Thanks button just under the screen. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Thom Raley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck, good gaming.